Prayer. Hear us, O our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder to a land of captivity. Do not cover their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. His example for us is to pray. God is so much bigger than our problems. So much bigger than our problems. When you get discouraged, it just seems so trite for a preacher to say, well, pray about it, pray about it, we'll pray about it, we'll pray about it. But what do when you get discouraged? How does it look to you, this praying about it? I tell you, there's been so many times I get discouraged, and I'm sure you do too. We all have different things that bring in our discouragement. I'm thinking about this week. What a week, in regards to discouragement, or the temptation towards discouragement, And I share a few of those things with you. Not to try to bring you down, but to show you how I dealt with it, my discouragement this week. I first have a very dear loved one who's going to the hospital for, tests, and we get done with all these tests and still don't really know what's going on. That was on Tuesday. Wednesday, I had the honor and the privilege of ministering to a family who lost their 14-year-old daughter to a battle with cancer. 14 years old. How do you handle that? How do you handle that as a family, as a community? And then, on Friday, I drove up to Grand Rapids to pray for and visit my cousin who was in a fire, and he's in intensive care, still not out of a coma yet from the fire that he was in, and he's on a ventilator. Not to mention all of the moral failings that I've heard about this week, the letdowns that I've had from various and sundry people that none of you know about and you will not know about. I'm not done. I'm just getting started. That's enough to make you just want to quit. But that's not the answer. Our God is so much bigger than all the problems of our world. And so what I do, this is just one thing that I do of several. When I'm outdoors, I look at the sky. And I look at, if it's dark time, I look at the stars and the expanse. And I look at the creation. And I look at the trees and the hills. And I look at this massive creation. And I realize how big our God is. And it's amazing how when I begin to look at all the wonders of His might and how big our God is, how now my problems and those things and those fears begin to diminish and get smaller and smaller and smaller, because I know that my God is in control. And I talk to Him and I ask Him for strength. And your problems, your fears, your struggles, I'm sure they're as big or bigger. But please, go to your God in real fellowship. I'm still amazed to this day how many people say they don't know how to pray. There's no scientific formula about it. There's a very real God who's very big, who you can just talk to and share your greatest needs and your concerns and your fears and your struggles. And He hears you, and He knows, and He can do something about it. Don't try to build this wall on your own strength. Don't get fixated on the rubble. Don't get fixated on the problem. I'm reminded of David. Oh, I love King David, but he was just a little guy. He was a young man. And he was just simply taking some reinforcements, some food and things to his brothers who were at the battle line, who were fighting the enemy, the Philistines. And he comes to the battle line just bringing the food and the other things his father had sent him. And he sees this big old dude get up there and he speaks these terrible atrocities against the armies of God. And all the armies of God kind of shake in fear and draw back. And David said, who is this big uncircumcised fellow who would speak such against the armies of God. Let's go out and whoop this dude. Now, his brothers, who are trained in the ways of the world and trained in battle, said, David, you little scrawny runt, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. This man's seasoned fighter. Well, that's the difference. David wasn't looking at the big guy. He was looking at his big guy, God. And so in comparison to his God, this Goliath was nothing but a runt, a scrawny little runt who needed his head chopped off. That's all he saw. He said, let's get out there and do it. You know, I trust my God. When a lion came against me, I took a rock, put it in a sling. I took a bear, and my God delivers me from them. He'll deliver me from this Philistine guy. Oh, I love that. Do you realize how practical that is today when we have that Goliath of a problem, a fear, a struggle, a challenge come up against us? Put it into comparison to our God, and it's like, tiny. My God can handle it all. I want to have that kind of faith like David. And it's real simple. Your God, big, problem, small. He will overcome it. Oh, Nehemiah. Nehemiah had that kind of faith too. And it's contagious as well. You ever been around somebody with that kind of faith? It's contagious. And now we think, again, we can build the wall. Nehemiah says also, he appeals to their values. He appeals to their priorities, okay? And he says in verse 14, he says, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome. We sing over and over again, the battle belongs to the Lord. The battle belongs to the Lord. And yet time and time again, we try to take up the battle and do it ourselves. Pray, that's where the God's part comes in. And then post a guard. Yeah, there's a battle for us, but we're not doing it alone. This is so encouraging to me. We're not in this thing alone. None of us is alone. There's a gal, and I wish I could remember her name, but you know what? Sonny, you're familiar with California, right? What is the name of that? Is it Catalina? Is that someplace in Florida? Catalina's in California, right? All right. Well, there's a little area they swim. It's a long distance, right? And I don't know the name of this gal. She was going to be the first gal to swim that distance to Catalina, or from Catalina to the shore, or whatever. It's long, long distance. 20, 30, 40 miles or something, and, you know, shark-infested waters and all this. And so she's a really good swimmer. And she's swimming, right? Swimming. She's getting tired. She's getting very discouraged. And finally she gets, she's in this really thick fog. And she's just going stroke after stroke after stroke. And finally she just says, I can't take it anymore. And, you got these little boats that come up alongside them. She has said, I quit. And they pulled her out, and she was like a mile or two away from the shore. So discouraged. So a couple of minutes later, she did it again, but there was no fog, and she made it, by the way, in record time. She beat the guy's record in this. The difference was, she could see the shore. She could see the shore. She could see the end. She could visualize finishing. Do you see the application that's in each and every one of our lives for the city on the hill and what it is that we're building, and not to become discouraged, but to keep on one step after another, because we can see the end. Do you? Do you see the end? Do you see it built? Do you see it completed? Do you see all the rubble gone? Keep your eyes on that. Keep your eyes on the one who can make that happen. No matter what happens along the way, just keep on going. Keep your eyes on that vision. Remembering your priorities. Remembering your values. And don't be afraid of asking for help. Okay, this is the last one here. I love this. Verse 20. Whenever you hear someone sound the trumpet, you join us there. Our God will fight for us. Now,